All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight we have a graduate student talk here. My name is Cassidy Westron. I'm the Public Programs Coordinator here at the List Visual Arts Center. And tonight we're joined by Manaswi Mishra here to talk about Steina Playback. So Graduate Student Talk Series is a series where we invite graduate students to expand on our exhibitions using their research in a similar subject matter. And tonight we'll be hearing from Manaswi, a PhD student in the Opera of the Future group at MIT Media Lab. His research explores strategies and frameworks for a new creative age of composing, performing, and learning music using AI centered around bespoke human intent. Manaswi's research on creating novel AI musical instruments can be seen in the development and performance of operas like Valis, Flow Symphony, and exhibitions across the world. In this talk, Mishra will demonstrate a radical way of using voice and gesture to shape music using AI models in a live performance as a method to better understand Steina's experimental analog manipulations of sound and signal since the 1970s. At the end, we'll have a Q&A where you'll have a chance to ask any questions you may have. And that's all I have, so thank you so much and for showing interest in our programming. And now let's hear from Manaswi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cassidy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Like Cassidy said, I'm Manaswi. I get to work in this building in the Opera of the Future research group as a PhD student. And I'm so glad to be here in the midst of this exhibition. And I want to welcome all of you. Maybe you had a chance to walk through and see some of Steina Vasulka's work. But if you haven't, then after I speak, maybe we can do it together and learn together. And I want to acknowledge that Steina Vasulka has done some amazing contributions in idea processes that we'll explore here, but also one other aspect that influences me a lot is community. And in the 70s, they started this space, the Kitchen in New York, which was a hub for many incredible performances, experiments. They even called the kitchen a test lab for live audiences. And participation was very important for Steina. And so I welcome all of you to participate in this conversation with me. I will share some ideas in the context of Steina's work, but I really want to hear from all of you because just like Steina's space, the kitchen, I wish such a space existed all around us and we can create such spaces everywhere. So I just want to acknowledge this community that Steina adds to all of our lives. I want to say that I love music, and I get to work on music and technology and build instruments. And I had a chance to meet Steina a few weeks ago when she was here in person. I went up to her and I said, I love music, I work on music, I'm very inspired by your work. And she looked at me dead in the face and said, it is dangerous working with music. It's a black hole, you're going to fall deep into it. And I was kind of like, acknowledged her fear. She comes from the world of music and moved away from the world of music in the 70s when she moved to New York and worked on visual art. But music informed a lot of her thinking, and she really derives a lot of power from music, which is essentially a way of arranging ideas in time, decorating time, thinking about repetitions, patterns, and you might see that in a lot of her work over here. And she makes a distinction to use these words music, sound, and audio. And I think they're slightly different words. In many languages, there are many more words to describe what sound and music and audio mean. She's very particular to talk about her work as not music, but as audio, and signals being the most important thing in her work. Signals being the medium that she works with, almost in the same way as an artisan works with clay or acrylic paint. The signal is the material that she is manipulating. And she also talks about the signal as a reference to the world, because the signal that you can see on an oscilloscope shows you how much black, how much white there is in the real world, and allows us to have some kind of reflection on what we see, what we perceive in reference to the data that we are looking at. Now, why am I saying all of these things? Is because in my work, I'm very inspired by music and audio and signal as well. And I'm going to share a few of these works in the context of principles that Steina invented. But before I do that, I want to show you some objects. that allow me to think the way Steina was thinking. And the first object I have here is this one. Can anybody tell me what it is? It's hard to see in the darkness. Maybe I can get some light on it. Can you see what it is? It is a piece of tree. Yes, it is like a cross-section of a tree trunk. And this is a particular cross-section of a tree trunk that is wrapped in plastic that I found in an art store. I didn't know you can buy these. They sell pieces of trees, people. I didn't know that. And this piece of tree, probably like $10, is very interesting to me because I'm sure you're aware when you look at the tree trunk, it represents a living thing. It's not alive anymore. It's a cross-section of time. So you can see the tree trunk rings. These rings represent how the age of the tree. I'm sure you're aware. But I was digging deeper into what a tree trunk stores, what information is held in this artifact that I'm holding. And if you look through the tree trunk rings, you can find histories of how the weather was changing in the decades that this tree was alive, how insects approached it, how drought seasons happened. And you can look at this and get a sense of reality from the perspective of this individual, this tree, this one tree, wherever it was located. And so when I look at this, I think of the signals hidden in this, the information that's hidden in this. And I try to look behind and see where is this tree from, but it doesn't say. It doesn't tell me where this tree lived. I think all the context of this is gone, and all it says back here is this is home decor. So you can decorate your house with this piece of a slice of data, a slice of reality. Now, I was very inspired and intrigued by tree trunks. I started collecting pictures of tree trunk rings everywhere I would see them and comparing them, go to museums and see old trees and new trees. And I was looking at these tree trunk rings, and I tried to make music by looking at these rings because this also looks like a record. I don't know if you, I think many of you have thought about this before, maybe, that this looks like a circle, there are lines in the middle, these grooves, and so I wanted to look at this signal and listen to what this signal sounds like. And I'm holding it in front of another beautiful piece that is two signals interfering each other, which is violin power that Steina Vasulka worked on, where she's kind of performing video with her violin. So looking at the signal of video through the signal of her music. And as it plays behind me, you can kind of see the different ways the signal is interfering when you look at it from a different lens. And when I guess we can't hear it right now, but you will see the visuals get influenced by the music. And what I'm interested in right now, as many people in this building, is AI, generative AI. It is impacting us. It is impacting our lives in ways that we have control over, ways that we don't have control over. In many ways, when I see an AI model, I can recognize it in this tree, that it is a slice of reality based on some data points from one perspective. So I wanted to present this tree and another object as the camera. And maybe you've walked through the exhibition and seen many cameras in different spots, different places, used in different ways. And what I want to point out is the camera as an object takes in input and then stores it on film. And because Steina came from a world of music, she was definitely interested in the liveness of the camera. And in these participatory spaces like the kitchen, people in New York had not experienced this in the 70s. The camera was to record to film the perspective, the ideas of the person recording. And she really wanted to connect that to the liveness of it, so she would connect it to screens and show what other people are seeing and make manipulations in the middle. Now, this camera can also be a great example of what an AI model is, because it looks at input, builds a model of the real world, and produces some output. And we can manipulate it in the middle. But there is a key difference. You might have heard of the camera as a representation of automation and technology in the past, how painting changed because of camera, how photography became a new art form. But there's a key difference between the camera and the AI model, because the camera has some chemistry happening in it. The process of taking the pixels on the screen that hit the film and developing that on a film, which is a chemical process, versus the AI model, which has a lot of data of real people that have done a lot of work inside it. So the process involves a lot of people's perspectives, kind of like the rings on this tree. With this in mind, I think of the AI models that I get to work on as the cameras in this room of Steina's exhibition. And in her talk recently, she laid out two principles that informed a lot of this work. The first was the freeing of the image from the process. So she was very interested in the pixels, what's happening to the process of the camera, and how to free the image from the processes. And this is what I was interested in too. I saw these AI models, and they could make music. Now, I am saying AI models making music. I do want to ask, how many of you have heard AI making music? Maybe some of you have. All of you have. Amazing. Was it great, good music? How many of you raise your hand if it was really good music? Oh, I think the goodness of music is hard to say. What was good about it? Was it getting the music right? I think if Steina was working with these cameras that can produce good music, she would ask questions about the process and what is interesting about the process. You can see in the work on machine vision and all vision, the CRT televisions, where she's trying to separate the image from the process and show us the voltages that are in the signal. I want to play like an example audio over here to show you what these AI models can do right now. So here is an example of something that I've made where I can hum a melody like ooh, 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 ooh. And now use these AI models to take this melody and interpret it into many, many genres. And that's how I made my last album, which has more than 50 different songs. And we can listen to some of them. That's like a disco. The model has seen disco, it knows to make disco. A blues song, country, rock music. I could listen to this for a long time, but that's because I came up with this melody. The process didn't give me too much control. I was curious about it, and it made something interesting. It's a joy to share it with my friends, but when you see AI music outside, online or AI images, and you look through the comments, everybody's asking, what was the prompt? I want to make it too. It's not so much about the person that made it, because the process is very simple. It is hidden away. It's a prompt that you write or a melody that you sing, and then it makes all of this for you. So just like Steina's work, I was interested in getting to what's hidden inside the process. And so I started exploring these models, but this time without giving it any melody, without giving it any text, and just starting from silence and seeing what will the model make if it sees only silence. Now you're going to hear a collection of sounds that the model has sputtered out starting from silence. Let's see what you think of these sounds and if they're good music, according to you. I'll turn it down because this goes on for minutes. And I feel like now I'm finding something more interesting in the process that is hidden behind these AI models. Because I'm trying to not find the good music that these models are kind of being trained to make, but rather get to what is hidden inside it. Just like some of Steina's work of trying to look at what voltages look like, we can try to listen to what the weights of these neural networks look like. And of course, we have to make some decisions of, do we want to hear it in sine tones? Do we want to hear it on the piano key? What kind of mapping should we do? And as I was approaching it, I felt unclear on what is the mapping, what is my role in it. And I was looking at what Steina has said about feeling uncomfortable with putting your own agency onto things. I don't know if some of you got to see All Vision that is out there. There are these two cameras looking at a spherical blob in the middle, and they're rotating. So Steina wanted to free the image from the narrative. And that's the second point. So freeing the image from the process, but now freeing the image from the narrative. And she said, if the camera could be controlled and moved, then who gets to control the camera? What if it is put on a place and shown in a way that was not shown by a human before? Put at a height and a low point that a human would never capture from. And so she makes this object there on a turntable where the cameras are looking at these discs. And she says, I saw an ugly chair in the image one day, and I thought, should I move this ugly chair? And she says, I decided I cannot interfere with it. This is the process. This is the machine vision. And so me choosing to remove the chair would mean I'm interfering with what the machine sees. And that's how I kind of felt about these AI models. Right now, when we see it out in the world, it's kind of trying to make this statistically likely good music, but it's not at all interesting from the perspective of what new things can I do with it. It is this button-pushing music making that is not so interesting, I think, for not just the artist, but for the individual too, because the novelty wears off. You press the button a few times, you get the music that you like, but you want to control it. You want to move it in different directions. You want to change it from what others have done before you. So I was interested in freeing the image from the narrative, and therefore freeing the sound from that narrative. And what I started doing was making AI models that are smaller models trained on just single sources of sound. Now I'm going to play some of this with my voice so you can kind of hear what this sounds like. Well, before I play this, because it's going to be some weird sounding music, I want to kind of motivate myself with the manifesto that Steina made for the kitchen. There are many amazing exhibits from the kitchen that are in the front over here, and they say that this place was selected by Media God to perform an experiment on you, to challenge your brain and its perception. We will present you sounds and images which we call electronic image and sound compositions. They can resemble something you remember from dreams or pieces of organic nature, but they never were real objects. They have all been made artificially from various frequencies, sounds, inaudible pitches, and these beats. Accordingly, most of the sounds you will hear are products of images processed through sound synthesizers. Furthermore, there is time to sit down and surrender. There is no reason to entertain minds anymore, because that has been done and did not help. It just does not help, and there is no help anyway. There is just surrender, the way you surrender to the Atlantic Ocean, the way you listen to the wind, or the way you watch the sunset. That is the time you don't regret that you had nothing else to do. I felt very inspired seeing this. And I'm going to make some of these sounds now. So please surrender yourself to my sounds. Doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Takita doom. Tadungina to tadingina to taki tadingina to tadingina to takataki tadingina to tadingina to takataki tadingina to tading to takataki tadingina to tadingina to takataki tading to tadingina to takataki tadingina to tading to takataki to doom tak to doom tak to doom doom to doom tak to doom tak to doom doom to doom tak 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 to doom doom doom. Na ra ra ra, da ra 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 ra, na ra ra, na ra ra ra, da ra ra. Thank you.